Welcome to the Soul Driven Podcast, where we dive into the essence behind the excellence and the soul behind the success. I'm your host, Colette Davenport, and today I am joined by Ricardo Palomares González. His journey led him across the globe, backpacking through South America, walking across Spain, and cycling from Alaska to Argentina, while sharing his powerful stories through documentaries, his book, and 5 TEDx Talks. So, welcome, Ricardo.
Hey, Colette, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. I'm honored to shine the light on you today, and let's show people who you are.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's sort of give everybody that tangible understanding of what you do, and then we'll dive into the meat of it, or the soul of it, let's just say.
Sounds
So
good.
what originally drove you to do the work that you do today? Let's start there.
So what drove me to do it was that, I did what I did. I cycled the earth, well, Alaska from Argentina, walked across Spain. I gave 5 TED Talks. I wrote a book. I was leading a men's group, and all this from nothing. I grew up poor in Mexico, immigrated by myself, and did all that. And when I was doing all this, on the outside, I had a beautiful home and I had a beautiful girlfriend. And on the outside, I kind of had it all. I achieved all my dreams, but I was very unhappy. I was very unfulfilled. And yeah, it didn't matter how much money I made, didn't matter how many achievements, didn't matter the beautiful girl, didn't matter any of that. I felt like I needed more. It was never enough. And so that led me to a very profound inner journey to find fulfillment inside myself instead of outside myself. And that's kind of like what I did for 7 years. I found it, and now I share the path to do it.
Yeah, I get that, truly. Was there a moment that sort of cracked you open, or was it a slow sort of unfolding of that awareness where, you're looking out and you see it all those trappings, so to speak, of a life of success and adventure. I know you're an adventurer, um, but feeling the lack or the void inside. Was there a moment that cracked you open, or tell us like how that came for you?
I think it was multiple things. First was the cycling journey that I did. One of those journeys, it shows the best and the worst in you, and the worst in me, right, was full of trauma because of the way I grew up, and so some of the things that you can't unsee, right? And so when I came back from that journey, I knew that I needed to do a lot of healing. And even though I was doing the TED Talks and everything else, I was working on my inner journey, and I'm kind of realizing that in every single area of my life, I was being someone who I was not truly myself. Like I was pretending to be someone who I was not. And in my path of kind of showing myself more of who I was, realizing that a lot of things that I was doing were not really for me. And so it was just that. It was probably like some years where I started questioning every single area of my life and realizing, oh wait, I'm pretending to be someone that I'm not in my friendships, in my romantic relationships, in my work, in everything really, you know?
Yeah. So when you were reflecting on that, when you realized it rather, that you're pretending, that you're putting on a facade, that you're living up to some, I don't know, expectation or something, how did you recognize this isn't me?
Yeah, I think it kind of naturally came to the surface. I didn't start the journey questioning that. The journey started by asking myself, this was the question that changed everything. Am I congruent? Am
Ah,
I
there it is.
am I being
There it is.
congruent? Right?
Yeah.
And the answer was no. And so I didn't really know why, but at least I knew that the answer was no. And so that led me to questioning myself more. And let's say my friendships or my romantic relationships. Okay, I'm not congruent, but why? What is happening here? How come I'm not happy with my relationship? How come I'm trying to pretend someone that I'm not? How come I'm scared just to be myself? And so kind of like little by little, started like questioning, but the core question was very simple, like, am I congruent?
Yeah. So share with us what that means for you, congruent.
Yeah, I think to me it was very clear that, I was on stage speaking about resilience and personal development, and I was leading a men's group on conquering yourself and all these different things. And was I master of myself? No, I was not a master of myself. Yes, I was preaching about mastering yourself, right? And at the same time, it's very simple, right? I have a very strong spiritual practice. And so to me was, okay, so are your thoughts, word, and actions completely aligned to what you believe spiritually? Which to me, my relationship to God is the most important thing in my life. And so the answer was no. And what I
Okay.
realized was that instead of me trying to align myself to my beliefs, I was trying to align my beliefs to what I really wanted, what I desired. And so that's what it means to me, whether that everything that I think, speak, and do align with my most deep, profound beliefs in my relationship to my creator.
I love that. Um, so have you always had that spiritual connection or is it like come online, so to speak, or blossomed for you more recently?
No, it's pretty much that's been the force behind everything that I've done in my life, my relationship to God, or what I think God wants from me. Um, it was different. My journey changed when I came back from that traveling experience because it became more like the difference was that I fully committed to it. It's always been my driving force, but like sometimes you do it, sometimes you're not, and kind of hesitate or whatever. No, when I came back, I made the choice of I'm going all in and whatever it takes, right? And I lost it all, right? I lost I lost it all. I lost the house and I lost the beautiful girlfriend and I lost a lot of money and I kind of like lost everything that I've gained, but I gained something even greater.
I do. I know that story very well. It's like, I mean, I know it sounds cliche to say, but it's the ego death, right? The
Hmm.
ego clings to all these fascinating, fantastic physical things, whether that's
Yeah.
the relationship, the house, the job, the status, the money, the things, right? The physical body, right? Um, the ego grasps that because that's what it needs to survive, to be relevant.
Hmm.
And like you said, when we step into that full fuck yes to God or whatever that is for us, right? A lot of times we think things are just going to, maybe the path will be a little bit smoother, less rough around the edges. Nope. A lot of times what happens, certainly in my experience and the people
Yeah.
that I've talked to, it's a whole dismantling that occurs. But it's only difficult, if you will, for the ego,
Yeah.
right? The soul is like, yeah, riding the roller coaster.
Yeah.
But the ego is like, fuck, can it get any worse? Well, it's the rebirth, it's the resurrection. I mean, there's a reason I have a phoenix tattooed on me. It's
Oh,
that coming up, like burning down, being purified, if you will, in the flames. And here I am, still alive, still breathing,
yeah.
and better than before.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, is there are there specific values that lead what you like you as a man and what you share in your work today? What are your top values?
It's so I teach what I teach because it's a path that I walk is it's known as the path of the feathered serpent, which is the knowledge of the Toltecs, the ancient people of the Americas.
Okay.
And so for the ancient people of the Americas, the Toltecs, they kind of saw the symbol of the feathered serpent as the complete mastery of oneself, the mastery of the
Okay.
body, of the heart, and the mind. And one of the things that I really love about the way they see themselves, they were impeccable. They say we are impeccable in thought, word, and action. And so everything that we say, speak and do comes from unconditional love and unconditional peace. And when it's not, we made sure that we change whatever need to change, and we ask for forgiveness, and we recognize it's a very beautiful, humble path. The other thing that I love that they say they walk straight and proud. And so the saying that they walk straight and proud was a metaphor for the balance between the heart and the mind. They were like we're completely balanced, and so we walk completely straight towards our purpose. And we know exactly where we are, and we know exactly where we come from, and we're completely proud of where we come from. We know exactly who we are, and what is our call in this lifetime, and we walk straight towards it. It's extremely profound. So just going back to your question is very simple to me, is to be impeccable and to walk straight towards the will that God has for me in my life.
I love that. And while I love the simplicity of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I also know it's not necessarily easy.
Yeah, no.
So when challenges or hurdles or wobble arises for you, what do you go to that helps you?
I have a set of a process that this is the process that I teach. And so pretty much the 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 feather serpent, the perspective of the feather serpent is a student of life. And so whatever happens outside of me is just reflecting where I need to change, where I need to master myself. And so once something happens, something triggers me, I get sad, angry, whatever. I have a set of process where first, in order to fully master yourself, you have to master the heart and the mind separately. First, you have to deal with with heart, which are the emotions, and then with the mind, which are the thoughts and beliefs. And so just imagine like this, when we're trying to, ultimately the goal is to change the belief because that's what caused the pain in the first place. You see what I'm saying?
I
But
do.
if after we get triggered, if we focus straight to the mind, it's going to be very difficult to change the mind because there's a lot of emotion behind it. And so, I have a set of different practices like journaling and, things like that, where I can just release all the emotions that related to that situation. And then afterwards, I just work with the mind to change the belief. And ultimately, what I desire is something very simple. Currently I have a belief that is telling me that my peace, my love, my acceptance, whatever it is outside of me. And so what I want is to eradicate it and say it doesn't really matter what's going on inside of me. Love, peace, and acceptance is inside of me, period. And so I just work with the mind and change that belief to make sure that I don't happen again, whatever it's triggering me.
Yeah. And don't you find that when those triggers arise, those emotions get provoked, that if you or we, if a person um, takes the time to tune in to that information rather than distracting or numbing or um, just putting it out of the way, like just avoiding,
Mm-hmm.
don't you find that when you take the time to turn toward that stimulation, that stimuli, that you integrate deeper levels or layers of peace and harmony within yourself?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, 100%, right? The fact that we push things away or don't want to feel them, that doesn't mean that it's not there. It's pretty much there. And the fact that we don't feel them all the time, that doesn't mean that it's impacting every single day of our lives. So for sure, yeah. To me, what I teach and what I practice is as quick as you feel something, just work on it, release it, process it, whatever you need to, because if not, it's going to stay there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, that's, understanding emotions, their purpose, how their mechanics, like all of that is, fortunately, I think that's pretty mainstream these days.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your, like, let's go beyond that intellectual or psychological understanding of human emotions, let's get into the energy or the spirit of emotions. Let's talk about it from a spiritual perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What, in your experience, like what is the purpose of, and we can just, for the moment, we can talk about those negative emotions, the sadness, the anger, the fear, right? Because, I mean, we don't really, it's pretty obvious what happiness, love, and joy and peace are. Like, we don't need to go investigating those necessarily.
Mm.
But when we do have those, that upheaval, that hurdle, that human condition,
Mm-hmm.
when that shit shows up, what do you think is the spiritual purpose of that?
Yeah. Well, I have probably like two sides of this answer. One is that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, and our goal is to experience life. And the way that we experience life is through emotion. And so the kind of like the spiritual meaning is to experience life itself, right? So at the end of the day, even though it's sadness or pain, ultimately our soul came to experience that and to not reject it. So, so to, in my perspective, in my experience, more importantly, is life becomes way more beautiful and depth. It has more depth if I don't reject all the negative feelings and I don't attach to all the positive, and I just simply let myself be in every single moment. And that's, for example, that's what I love about the feather serpent. The feather serpent is a representation of full expressing oneself in every single moment. And it's not the representation of fully expressing unconditional love. It's an expression of fully who you are in every moment. And maybe in one moment it's pain or suffering and sadness, and it's okay. It doesn't judge it at all. It just simply expresses itself, and by that attains full realization, because full realization is complete expression of oneself.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with your broader philosophy too, that we are here, we're embodied, if you will, spirit in human form, um, in order to experience.
The more, in my experience, so I can only speak and teach from my experience. That's it. And so, based on my experience, the more I let myself fully embrace the suffering and the pain and the guilt and whatever that is, the more I've been able to experience joy on the other side. We become more expanded beings. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want to be able to have a broader range of emotions. So that leads to that. And it comes to the other side as well, right? Like letting yourself truly be happy and truly be joyful will give you more range to endure the pain.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Kind of like the other side of the question is that ultimately, whatever triggered us is something that we need to heal in ourselves, right? What I teach in my work is that the natural state of the heart is unconditional love, and the natural state of the mind is unconditional peace, and the natural state of who we are as beings is in conditional harmony, which is the perfect balance of love and peace. And so, anytime we feel any kind of trigger for any reason, it's just showing us where our heart is not loving unconditionally, or where our mind does not have unconditional peace, or where there's an imbalance between both. So, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. It could be from this lifetime, it can be from other lifetime, it could be from your parents, and who knows. What matters is that it's just reflecting to you, hey, this needs to be healed or balanced, and that's the work to do.
That's really beautiful. And again, I absolutely agree. I believe that wholeheartedly. What is something um, that people misunderstand, either about you or your past?
Um, I think I think more the people that very few people know truly my path, everything that I've gone through or where I come from. And I think kind of like it's almost like it was giving, or it was easy, or it's easy for me because you do it and you've done all these things. Um, Completely the opposite. I come from very poor background. I come from very toxic environments. That nothing was given to me, right? I worked for everything. Uh, It was twice as hard because I was an immigrant. It was twice as hard for many, many reasons. Um, and it was not easy at all. I mean, like my spiritual journey, I've invested 7 years, 8 hours a day. Like it's not easy and it hasn't been. But what I love about what I do now is that um, now that I have the understanding of the mind, the subconscious, the chakras, and all these things, the spirituality, and whatever, I can just make it very simple for my students. My goal is to make it simple, fast, and gentle, which was the opposite of what was my journey.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm with you 100%. I recognize that I delved into the depths of darkness, so that I could bring a little more light to somebody's journey who's, called or compelled into chaos. I'll say for myself, and I'll get to the question in a second.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that the depth of the darkness was necessary for me to arrive at the awareness, at the, oh, I am the light, right? And there is nothing, there's no one, nothing out there, somewhere, over there, up there, that is going to shine something on me. I am that light, right? So I know I had to go through that in order to realize what I'm going to call the truth about me.
Yeah.
So I personally sometimes find it challenging. Like there's so many times where I want to share what I know and what I've been through to, again, lighten the load of those who are burdened. But then I'm like, I stop myself and I'm like, nope, they're exactly where they're supposed to be. They don't need it. Like I would be reaching down in the dark pit to offer them a hand, and I
Yeah.
stop myself. And it's an interesting thing for me, Ricardo, because on the one hand, I know that I'm here to be of service. But on the other hand, I also know that, that being in the shit and going through it was the only way I was going to ever get it.
Yeah.
So the question then is, what are your thoughts on that conundrum?
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, just my experience, right? In my journey, I kind of understood the difference between my spiritual journey and what I teach other people. And what does that mean? It means that I'm all in, right, in my spiritual journey, and I've sacrificed everything. Like I risked my life multiple times just for my journey, right? I've delved into very dark energies to master myself. It took me a long time to get out of them, and so that's my journey. That's my own personal journey, and that's something that I needed to do because of my journey. Now, as far as what I teach, to be the truth, like I know maybe like 3 people who have fully committed to the level that I have committed, right? And so in that sense, just kind of like made me understand that I don't need to teach people how to get here. I need to share the tools that anyone can use, doesn't matter where you are in your journey, for you to help yourself out of the shadows. It may be, it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe your goal is to have a better marriage instead of like conquering the self and like enlightenment. That's perfect, right? It's not, and that's great. And so that was something very difficult that took me a long time to understand, because I wanted, like, no, everybody has to, like, if
Yeah.
you knew how it feels, if
Yeah.
you knew, right? But to each their own. And ultimately, what I love the most and what I do, everything that I do, is I just want to live in peace. Like nowadays, man, I've been around in the spiritual world. I've gone in the astral realms. I've traveled, like I've done it, and I've fought it, and I've been around. And to be honest, what I want today, I want to love my wife. I just want to have a very simple, profitable business, doing something that honors God and that's going to bring me abundance, so I can have a home where my wife and my family feel in peace. That's it.
Yeah.
I may or may not go again into the astral wars, but it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. Like my priority right now is to have a simple life, to take care of my neighbors, to have communion with one another, to love my wife, to, to impact my community somehow. You know, for a long time, my journey was so epic,
Yeah.
outside and inside, in all the ways that you can imagine. And now I just want to be a simple guy. I don't need the super house. I need a house that is like beautiful and I can take care of my family, right? I don't need a super car, but I want a high quality car, And so, yeah, my journey has changed so much for sure. And it's simple.
Yeah.
It's like very simple, my journey.
Love that. And I think that's one of the, I don't know, you tell me, is that one of the surprises that comes from the journey inward?
For sure. I think that was the most beautiful surprise. So me, it's interesting. So me by nature, I'm a warrior, and I've always been a warrior. And what I teach, the feather serpent, is kind of like the energy and the consciousness of the warrior of warriors, right? Like the protector of truth, like the impact, it's like awesomeness. But as I started understanding this consciousness, as I awoke the feather serpent within myself, and I started understanding it, I realized that that the message was not fight for truth, fight for freedom, and all the stuff. The message was, I am tired of fighting. Let's live in peace. And that was super beautiful for me, just to say, like, not like very recently, I had a very profound ceremony, and like I said, I've dove and battled dark shit, and this ceremony was just very simple. I went to the doors of the shadows and say, I am done. I am married. I don't need to go inside your domains anymore. I respect your domains. I want to live in peace. Thank you for what you taught me. I'll let you be in peace. Just let me be in peace. And it was just the most beautiful thing that I could experience, because I thought that I needed to fight my entire life for what is right and yes, right. But there's a better way. There's another way in my experience. Just you do you. I respect your journey. Respect my journey. Let's live in peace.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's I love that so much. And there is a season, there is a time for that battle. Oftentimes, for whatever reason, that's the initiation into deeper levels of understanding or higher levels of consciousness, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even the name of this podcast, Soul Driven, for me, those are like, I've been investigating the intersection of ambition and that conscious awareness of self, or self actualization, if we want to go to the top of the conversation. Um, because I've, like I said earlier, I've been, I'm swimming in multiple pools. I can swim in the pool over here of just pure peace, and no action, and total surrender and allowance. And I love it there. And then I also have this aspect of me that is a feisty, fiery creator. Um, but in the past, what I found, I'll call it the downside of the feisty bitch, uh, is that I will lose that connection to the center. I'll just veer too far out of balance, right? Like you were talking about walking the straight and direct path. I forget how you said it.
Mm-hmm.
Straight and something else.
It's straight and proud, but yeah, completely
Proud.
balanced, walking straight.
Yes, yes. So when I sort of allow myself to express that highly creative fiery side of me, I often find that I lose myself in ego.
Hmm.
And then I get attached and I get into avoidance and things of that nature. So in this last year or so, I've allowed myself to spend, not spend more time, but to be wholeheartedly identified with the peaceful, centering, anchoring
Mm.
aspect of myself.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's an interesting thing because I've now come to find a sweet spot, if you will, a marriage, an intersection of these two, and I'm exploring that, and it feels real good to do so.
Mm.
So can you speak to that? You know, ambition is, or this world really values ambition,
Yeah, for sure.
and you know, we seem to think that spirituality, and on some level it is, um, or God, like honoring God, giving ourselves over to that. It's like, but then what do you do? So
Totally.
there is a sweet spot. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah.
Inter-
So what I teach, the path of the feather serpent, at the core of the path is our calling, like inner calling. And so we all have an inner calling in every single moment. It could be writing a book, it could be like speaking, it could be coaching, whatever. And so ultimately that's kind of like what the biggest and greatest motivation that we have on a daily basis. And then all the relationships are meant to support us towards fulfillment of that calling in the path of the feather serpent, and saying, okay, my calling is to teach the wisdom of my ancestors, and my wife, my friends, my community, everything is going to be in line with that and supporting, so I can do that, and I will share it with them, right? And as far as like the success and everything, so kind of like the essence of who we are is in the heart. And so when we try to find love outside ourselves, we're kind of trying to find ourselves outside ourselves. And so suddenly, who are we? Whatever my friends tell me I need to be so I be loved, whatever my partner, whatever my work. So suddenly, who are we? Whatever else wants me to be. And kind of like the purpose, it's in our mind. And so as we seek peace outside of us, we also seeking like, what is my purpose? Whatever my purpose is, so this guy is in peace with me, so my family is in peace with me. You see what I'm saying? And so what is my purpose? Whatever else tells me to do, so I'm in peace with everybody else. And so that's the heart, the mind, which is the third chakra, and the third eye, which is the balance of both. It's exactly what you're talking about, right? When we lead too much with the heart, we attach to things, we take responsibility that is not our responsibility, we want to save people. When we lead too much with the mind, we cannot detach. We take less responsibility that is our responsibility. And so either or creates imbalance. And so as you start saying, okay, you know what? Love inside of me, so I'm not going to change who I am so I can be all of who you want me to be. And peace is inside of me, so I'm not going to pursue all what you want me to pursue. I'm going to pursue myself. And I'm going to have this balance between both. The journey becomes very easy and very simple, because one is like, okay, I know exactly who I am, and so I'm not going to change myself. And the other hand, I'm going to let whoever accepts me who I am come into my life, and then I know exactly what I'm going to pursue, and I'm not going to deviate my path so I can mold myself in different spaces. I'm just going to go straight, and people I may let go of people and new people may come. It's all good. And because I have a balance, I just walk straight towards my purpose. Um, and so, yeah, I think as I did that with myself, like I had everything, right? In the outside, I had everything. But life was a struggle. For me to accomplish all the things that I accomplished was extremely difficult. I felt very lonely. My body was crumbling physically. Uh, my mind was super noisy. My relationships are well complicated. It was just a hard life. I had it. I accomplished it. I work hard. Like I grind it out, whatever. And I had it and I accomplished it, but it was rough. And so now it's very different in the sense of I love myself and I love others unconditionally. Period. No questions asked. And now I accomplish the things that I used to accomplish, but it's such a flow. and ease. I have plenty of time because in the past, when you are trying to accomplish all these things to kind of mold and fit in into different spaces, there's never enough time. There's never enough time to do all the things that you need to do. But when you fully have mastered the heart and the mind, there's plenty of times. There's plenty of time because you only do the things that are meant for you. And for those things are plenty of time. It's plenty of time. And my relationships are very simple, are simple. My relationships, the way I run my business is very simple. Yeah, like life becomes a lot harmonious in a
Yes,
sense, you know?
yes, yeah,
I don't know if
perfect
that answered your
word.
question. I think I went like kind of, but
Yeah.
did it answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
I essentially was asking you what your experience of being soul driven is,
Yeah,
and you just shined the light on that for us. So thank
yeah.
you.
And in
Yeah,
summary, like, which is super interesting, when we have all these conditions, when we say, I will only be loved or love others if this, and this happens, you create this kind of labyrinth in the heart. What does that mean? That in order for you to feel love, all these conditions have to be met. But suddenly there's so much conditions that the labyrinth doesn't have a exit. And so you just don't feel love no matter what happens, right? And it's the same with the mind, where you have all these conditions where, oh, I'm not going to be in peace unless this, and this happens. And the mind does the same. And so that creates kind of like a complicated heart and a complicated mind. And what does a complicated heart does? They have complicated relationships. So all your friendships and your relationship to your partner and your family and everything is complicated. And the mind is in charge of like ideas and solutions. And so suddenly all your ideas and solutions for every single area, every single thing that you want to create is complicated because the mind is complicated. And so that's the main thing that I've noticed in my life, where my heart is simple, my relationships are simple, my mind is simple, and the way I create ideas and solutions is simple. Yeah. I gave this
yeah,
example the other day where, you want to write a book. Great, let's write a book. But wait, unless I have this workshop, 3-day workshop to write it, I'm not going to be able. And then you go to the workshop. But then they sell the 1-year package for whatever. Like, oh, unless I do this, and then, okay, I guess I better have a PhD because it. And so the mind, literally, the mind cannot comprehend that things can be simple when there's a lot of conditions. And but when there's no conditions, the mind can say, okay, I'm just gonna write it, and then I'm gonna hire an editor or whatever. I don't know. It's just simple.
so good, so simple, and yet not the easiest for most people, which is where you come in. It's where I come in too, on some level in the work that I do. But I love how clear and straightforward um, the 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 feathered serpent is, and the work that you're bringing to the world that is also ancient,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and unique to where you came from.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I
Can
think
you say more about that? Like, what's
mhm,
the like? Give us a little bit of backstory or history behind.
for sure.
Yeah,
So first, the Toltecs. The Toltecs were not a group. The Toltecs is kind of like a philosophy of life, a way of life. It's not a religion or anything. It's just a way of life, a way to understanding and experience life. And so the ancient people of the Americas, the Mayans and the Aztecs and multiple other groups, they could be Toltecs. So that's the difference. They were not a group, they were just a way of life. And so the people who lived this way, the Toltecs, at the core of their way of life, they had the image or the symbol of the feather serpent, which represented personal mastery, body, mind, and body, heart, and mind. And so for them, they understood that in order for the community to live in peace, first each one of them have to live in peace. And so it was expected for each one of them, Toltecs, who were going to be devoted to embody the feather serpent. And so it was the daily practice to master oneself, to live in peace, so we all can live in peace as a community. And they kind of saw it from the inside to the outside. What does that mean? So first, I'm going to be in peace and harmony with my inner calling, right? And then with myself, and then with my partner, who is the one that we spend the most time, and then with my family and my friends and my vocation, because for them it was not work, it was vocation, the complete devotion of oneself in our craft, and then finally the community. And so they kind of understood, if each one of us did that, we're going to have a very good community, you know. And the feather serpent is simply a state of consciousness. That's it, right? And it's for to say another term, is enlightenment for the Toltecs,
Yeah.
the feather serpent.
Okay. So it's a symbol. It's a symbol or a sigil of that, of enlightenment, the feathered serpent.
Correct. For them, it was the perfect balance between the physical and the spiritual being.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I can see that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the serpent represented the one who crawls in the earth, so the physical being, and the feathers is from a quetzal, which is a beautiful bird, which represented the spiritual self. And so the feather serpent was the one who completely aligned the physical and the spiritual self. And
Beautiful.
yeah,
Just
it's
beautiful.
incredible. It's so beautiful. And this consciousness is like the Toltecs were warriors, true warriors, and it was beautiful because they didn't sought war. They were always ready to protect peace. They understood that things may come to attack and to take over their peace, and so they were always ready. So they were like true warriors, masters of themselves, right? But at the same time, they were true spiritual warriors. Like I said, they were expected to dive into the darkness within themselves to master themselves. So it was very, very beautiful. And ultimately, it was very simple, right? Like the goal was very simple, to live in peace and to live in peace in community, right? Because there's a lot of different paths, right? There's paths where you seek to be the savior of others, and that's fine. There's path where you detach yourself and you want to live in the mountains and meditate all day, and that's perfect. The Toltecs were enlightened warriors living in community. And so it was an enlightened warrior who was married, who had friends, who worked, who were just here hanging out with others. And the goal and the simplicity comes from, that saying where making things complicated is easy and making things simple is hard. Well, that comes from the mastery of oneself. They were able to make these things simple because they were complete masters of themselves. And as far as my journey, I went to the inner journey for the last 7 years. I've always been a student of life, right? I've always been like, whoever has knowledge to teach me, I'm ready to receive, right? And so for the last 7 years, I dove deeply and study, more importantly, practice over and over again. The teachings of Jesus, of Buddha, of Lao Tse, understanding of the nervous system, trauma, the Kundalini snake, nature. So I kind of approach it for all different angles, because the more the merrier, in my perspective.
Yeah.
And so it was very beautiful because each one of them was essential and necessary. Each one of those teachings or teachers gave me something essential in my journey. Right? From the Christ, I learned unconditional love. From the Buddha, I learned unconditional peace. From the yin yang, I learned the balance of both. From the Kundalini snake, I learned the full expression of oneself. From nature, I learned the flow of things, and everything has a flow and, natural process of things. From traveling the world and speaking to a bunch of people, I learned that each path is sacred and different. And so I kind of like learn all these different things. And finally, the the plant medicines and the ancient knowledge of the ancestral people of the Americas. I've worked with a lot of plant medicine, learn about, like, we carry a lot of trauma, not only from this lifetime, but from other lifetimes and a bunch of different things. And so along the way, I stumbled upon the feather serpent. which was beautiful because, I've kind of like look outside, look all over the world for major spiritual paths. But then what about my people and my ancestors? And the moment I started reading about it, I was just, I'm literally reading my path. Like, this is, without knowing it, I've been walking this path. I'm clearly a Toltec. I've always been a Toltec. I just didn't know I was a Toltec. Um, and why? Because everything that I've learned along the way, it's within the path of the feather serpent. Unconditional love, unconditional peace, balance of both, respecting the flow of nature, full expression of oneself, um, ex- respecting someone else's journey. Like, it was just so clear that I was being prepared to kind of find my own path. And I can't even explain to you how beautiful it felt. Like, oh, I found my home. Like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm meant to be. And I had an awakening. It's a whole spiritual process of the feather serpent, and I connected with the feather serpent. I saw it, images and visions of the feather serpent, and I was trained by Toltec warriors in the astral realms. They told me that they were training me the warrior way. It was a crazy beating. I will not do it again. And so ultimately, it was very simple. It's very clear the calling, and it was like, Ricardo, you're here, one of many who came to share the knowledge of our ancestors. And what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Is this, like, I'm giving away, like, I'm giving up, like, being a filmmaker and everything else in this sense. I'm just going to teach this knowledge and wisdom, um, in a very simple way. And I spent the last 2 years, literally it took me 2 years. I spent 2 years in gathering all the information that I learned from all my journey and putting it in the most simple, effective way to do it, to teach it. Doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, doesn't matter what your spiritual beliefs, for anyone to be able to apply it on a daily basis. For the
Love that.
one and simple goal to live in peace with yourself, others, experience abundance and prosperity with ease, and experience health and vitality. And that's pretty much
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I love it. Thank you for taking the time, for facing everything that you have, for doing the work, and for sharing yourself, your wisdom, your experience with others. It's you are needed, and and I know that people watching this or listening to this will sense the resonance between what you're sharing, your words, and where they're at as well.
Hmm.
Um, I've got a couple more questions, but to the person listening to this that is, let me set this up. To the person listening to this that does appear to have it all,
Mm-hmm.
the success, the status, the well-being, the physical, but there's total fucking chaos going on inside, right? There, the mind is the labyrinth, the heart is the labyrinth. There's all of these conditions for feeling happy, for feeling peaceful, joyful. And they, on some level, know that because none of their resources have solved the problem yet, right? What do you say to this person right here, right now? What's the
Yeah,
invitation? What's the transmission you have for this person watching?
for sure. First of all, is that what I notice the most when people are hesitant in diving into this thing, where they feel like they need to do work, but they're like not sure because I don't have the time or it seems too intense. Two things. One, people who probably have a lot of pain that they don't want to see it or feel it or bring it to the surface. They feel like it's way worse than what it actually is. The mind makes the pain that we don't want to look at into a monster. Every single time that I teach a process of releasing emotions to my students, they were like, "Oh, that's it. I've been like dealing, I've been trying to avoid this for like years. Well, that was it." And so one is that, like, whatever your pain is, doesn't matter how intense it was and how of a monster it feels in your mind, it's way less and way easier to release than what you think. Two is that a lot of people say, man, like, it seems like I'm going to have to do this crazy process, or it seems too long and I don't have time for this stuff. It's super simple. The way I teach it is super easy. People gone to like my 2-hour workshop, and in like 10-minute like exercise, they're like, oh, I released this thing that I've been carrying for 20 years. If you know how to do it, it's super simple. And actually, I spent the last 2 years making sure that it would be simple. I say, well, man, if people only have 15 minutes a day, how can I teach this and help them resolve? And I literally, that's what I've been doing, right? Like, that's what I teach. And so it's not as hard emotionally as you think, and it's way simpler to fix that what you think. That's one thing that I say. And the other one is that you can have it all, everything that you're having right now, and way more, and be fulfilled and happy. Actually, you're probably going to have way more money. You're probably going to experience way better things. Or if not way more money, you're going to be way more fulfilled with what you have. So it's not going to, like, what I teach is not like, I'm not trying to make you into a guru that you're going to have to renounce your entire life. My goal is very simple. I want you to have it all. I want you to have all of it and be happy with each one of those areas of your life and fulfilled. And instead of trying to search for more to be more happy, the only thing you're going to worry about is who else can I share my love with? I have so much love that I'm like, who else is ready? You know, it's very simple.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and the last thing, I don't know, you can edit this if you want to, but the last thing that I would say is that, like, think about the cost of not taking action, right? I spent 10 years of my life in a struggle relationship with my mom. And it was so difficult and it was so hard. And my mom passed away sadly without having resolved that relationship. And so I could have fixed that and I could have enjoyed 8 years with my mom with way better relationship, but I didn't do it. And so, and I'm not trying to make it too heavy here, but just think about what is the cost of, what are you losing by not taking action, and what are you not gaining by not taking action? That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I love that. And I get it. I think that there are those key relationships that we allow to be less than loving until it's too late. And that's a message that I'll reiterate that you just said. And it's not heavy, right? It's real fucking life, right?
Yeah.
Imagine having that loving, open dialogue with someone that you don't currently have that with, that is important to you, significant in your life. Imagine the tension gone from the relationship with your mom. How much more fulfilling would life be if all the relationships that matter to you were loving and peaceful? That is the most important thing, right? Like, that's the value in doing the work.
For sure. And all those relationships impact dramatically everything that we do, right? There's no separation between work and life. Life is like this, right? And so you show up at work not really good when you have all those relationships that are really heavy on you, you know?
If you only had 1 month left to live,
Mm-hmm.
how would you spend that time?
With my wife, I would buy a dog. I would go, my wife is from Austria. I would just move to Austria, live in the cabins, and just be with my wife and my dog.
Yeah.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have a wife. I just have a new wife, and I love her so much.
And I'll just point this out. There's one real world, tangible example, if you will, outcome, if you will, of living your truth, of living from that inner balance, that unconditional love and unconditional peace. You harmonize with another human in
For
such
sure.
a beautiful way.
It's interesting because, my entire life I've just dated a bunch of people. I'm just like traveling around and, I love to play and I love to experience and all these different things. And as I started, I met my wife like 3 years ago in Indonesia. She's a doctor and she travels in her spare time. She travels all over the world surfing. I was shooting a documentary, but we connected, but she wasn't really my type. And so in the last 3 years, as I healed through our relationship, I started realizing that I couldn't see her for who she was because of my wounds. And as I started healing thanks to our relationship, I started realizing like this is the woman of my dreams. But it was me who I couldn't see because I still had things too, right? And the other part was really beautiful is that as I started healing, I really started feeling this kind of like duty, I don't know how energy where it, like I wanna get married and I wanna create a family with values, with my Toltec wisdom, so I can pass on this wisdom ahead, right? Like there's plenty of people who are kind of not great having children, so might as well good people have children. You know what I'm saying? But it was interesting. It really became like so beautiful to say, yes, I will have a wife and I will protect her and I will create a family. And whereas before I was like, maybe yes, maybe not, but suddenly was, no, this is kind of like the cycle of life, right? And as a man, this is my duty. And it felt so beautiful to get to a point now that she's my wife. Life is just so simple where like, I'm going to teach the wisdom of my ancestors. I'm going to take care of my wife and create a family on their values. Simple, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I love that, that you couldn't see her through the
Hmm.
filter of the
Truly.
wound. That resonates with the work that I do too, that
Mm,
our entire perspective of ourselves, of the world, of others is filtered through a spiritual wound. And the only way to heal that wound is to turn toward it, toward self, right? Toward ourselves, toward our emotions, toward the thoughts the perceptions that we have of a situation, that triggering event. And the only thing that heals the wound is unconditional love, which
totally.
feels so passive. And in the world that we live in, that like, wait, you mean I don't do anything? Nope, just be with what is. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, most people don't know how to be with what is, be still and know, right? So that's where people like yourself and the work that I do as well come in handy, right? It's not about doing more, adding more, learning more. Sure, there's a framework and there's some principles and there's tools, but it's actually, like you said, about stripping away all that is convoluted to get to the simplicity, to get to the truth, to get to what's so.
Yeah.
Um, and that is a wonderful thing.
Hmm.
So, where would you like our audience to connect with you further?
My Instagram probably is the best way. Ricardo Pal, Ricardo Pal, and that's my website. And so you can find whatever I'm doing right now. And so currently I'm just starting what I'm doing. Kind of like the way I do work is I'm gonna start giving weekly online free workshops where I'll teach different aspects of the path of the feather serpent. And at the end of the workshops, I will invite them to my program to see if someone is interested. That's pretty much how it's going to work.
Beautiful. And I know that you do some speaking and presentations for organizations as well. So if someone's listening, they're wanting speakers, what would be the most soul aligned for you to show up and share your wisdom?
One, I think with corporations and business events and kind of like big conferences, what I'm teaching is extremely applicable to daily life. And what I teach, a lot of what I teach is communication, right? And I believe that communication is the difference between fulfillment and unfulfillment and success and failure. And so I've been giving workshops and conferences with like lawyers, with doctors and whatnot. And so that's a good place to do it. And two, for those who are in the spiritual path, for those who are seekers, for those who just trying to find inner peace, I bring a very unique perspective to the spiritual path and to inner peace. Can I finish? Can I finish with one last thing?
Yes.
What I love the most about the path of the feather serpent is that they seek to be undeniable. And so, what does that mean? For the Toltec is not going to come and say, "Look at this book, look at this quote, look at this information. Believe me." The Toltec is going to be, "Look at my life, look at me. I am undeniable. I am undeniably a master of my body, and my heart, and my mind." And so it kind of like challenged everybody else. It's like, great, you are a seeker, you follow the Christ, the Buddha, great, become the living example. Don't try to convince me to follow your teacher. You yourself become the living example of the teachers, of your teachers, so I can say your teacher is a master.